Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
I'm a blurred with a love for artwork and comics and animation.
And I'm a writer in Blurred with a love for pretty much the same things.
We grew up together and spent much of our formative years watching and talking about DC superhero shows and content. In fact, we still do.
Every episode, we will discuss a DC production, compare it to its original source material, and share our thoughts on the adaptation.
We've enjoyed our conversations these past couple of decades, and we think you will too.
This season, we're looking at 16 years of DC animated movies to see which stories are sweet and which ones are sour on
yet another DC animated podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. Welcome to yet another episode of yet another DC animated podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I am Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year Jean-Claude Van Damme's The Quest came out. What is it about? I'm glad you asked. It's about a mysterious martial arts tournament taking place in the mysterious lost city in Tibet in 1925 for some reason, and the prize is a golden dragon.
I remember The Quest like very vividly right now. I don't know why, but yes, yes, everything about that, as confusing as it was, made, well, does it make sense? I'm going to have to watch this film again because I don't know why, but for right now, we're going to talk about another dragon. I hope it's not the same one he had to get. As we talk about Batman, Soul of the Dragon. I cannot get the Dragon Ball Z English theme song out of my head every single time I talk about this movie.
Just headbanging the entire time you're watching it.
Dragon, rock the dragon. So yes, we are going still with our sweet or sour season. This is the penultimate film we have made travel through every year so far of DC Entertainment. That is almost to our timeline as we are in 2021 with Batman Soul of the Dragon. Once again, of course, at the 83-minute runtime, you had our boy in the directorial seat once again. Sam Liu putting in that good work for DC Entertainment and DC Animation. But the most important thing of all is that this movie is rated R.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
Are you telling me of all the movies we've seen, this is the R-rated movie?
This is it.
But why? There was much worse stuff in the other ones.
It's because they wanted to give me an opportunity to finally say all the words I wanted to say.
Oh my God.
I can finally say ass, shit, fuck. I can even say my favorite one of all time. Fart nuggets.
Oh, damn. Like the dragon in this movie, Shamar is uncaged and ready to go.
Yes, because that is the plot of today's film. We're going to talk about demons, dragons, and straight up 70s martial arts as Batman takes us in a trip back in time to his early days as we get introduced to some great characters, including this cast list here, such as David Gentoli. He's no stranger to grim actions, which is why he's our Bruce Wayne Batman in today's film. Fun fact, did you know he's married to, I believe to pronounce it, Bitsy Tulloch, aka Lois Lane from Superman and Lois?
Oh, no, I didn't know that, but wow, she's Batman and Superman. Impressive.
Right?
Impressive.
Right? Way to go, Tulloch. You're doing good work. Following up, we got Chris Cox, another great voice actor who's returning once again to DCAMU, but this time as Rip Jagger. From Dragon Ball Evolution to Sucker Punch to Big Hero 6, and most recently Lovecraft Country. That I feel like that's actually a better upward trajectory.
There you go. I gotta be full disclosure. I thought this guy was Rick Flag until like the 40-minute mark.
Oh my God, I thought so too.
Because I didn't have subtitles on, and I thought I heard Rick. And that's...
But I'm glad to see that it wasn't Rick Flag because spoilers, he does not have a good life cycle. But yeah, for our Dragon Ball Evolution character, we have Jamie Chung, who's putting her voice acting skills to work once again as Jade Nguyen, aka Cheshire. She does not actually adopt the Cheshire title here in our film today, but that's how we know her.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Keaton drops spiders for snakes as this former web slinger shows a rise of Cobra as our villain Jeffrey Burr.
No,
I worked
okay,
really,
you beat me to the joke. You beat me to it. I concede. I give it to you.
I worked really hard on that one. It was 3 days locked in the room. Then we have our cast list of villains normally in the DC universe who are now today's reimagined heroes. As we have Kelly Hu, who moves from China White in the Arrowverse and also as Cheshire in Young Justice to now voice Shiva. And speaking of the Arrowverse, we got Michael J. White, who is once again returning as the not Black Samurai, the Bronze Tiger.
Can we? All right, look, enough already. Give him his movie. All right,
Yes.
just put him on the big screen as Bronze Tiger. He's done it in every other medium. Stop playing around. Stop playing with my mans. Get White on the screen. That's my petition. I'm bringing it back. Get White as the Bronze Tiger on the big screen. I'm tired of waiting. Let's do it already.
It's like at this point, I feel like every other iteration of him, of Bronze Tiger, doesn't count anymore. Well, except for the one in Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. Well,
yeah,
that's a good runner up.
Yeah.
Following him, we got the chairman on Iron Chef, Ling from Cradle to the Grave. But today, Mark Dacascos is voicing Richard Dragon.
Cradle to the Grave. Oh,
as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I have to. For DMX, I have to. Fun fact, the last three people who I mentioned are actual martial artists in real life. They are like degree level black belts, like past one level black belt levels. So if you ever see them in the street, don't fuck around or find, because you will find out. And finally, this one, we're giving our man his flowers today, James Hong, who at the age of 93 is still putting in some hard work. You'll know him from his breakout role in the New Adventures of Charlie Chan. He's in Hawaii. He was in Hawaii Five-0, and most recently, you'll remember him from Everything Everywhere All at Once. But also, Andrew, you'll remember him as Dao Long from Jackie Chan, the Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh my god!
And also for me, Mr. Ping from the Kung Fu Panda series. I'm sorry, I did like the Kung Fu Panda series. It was very entertaining. But today, James Hong is returning once again to provide us with some wisdom as O-Sensei.
Yes. And he is very wise. He sounded very wise.
All right, so now that we got all that information set, it is now time to show you that we may not know karate, but we do know crazy as we boom tube over to the beginning of Batman Soul of the Dragon.
So as we start Casino Royale, Soul of the Dragon, we see that there's a high stakes card game going on, but neither of the people in the card game are what the real focus is. The focus is actually the waiter, who stealthily stole some fingerprints to access a secret room within it. And once he's in there, he gets to a safe, sneaks some picks, and he's having a pretty good time. Except there's something that is a problem, which is there are guards, and all he has is an apple as a weapon. What is this mysterious character going to do?
Well, it does seem like he's unable to finish his apple because he decides to open up a can of whoop ass. He is just basically handling business. So he is able to escape right before he sees one guy from somewhere pull a grenade out of his suit.
This guy right here, 0 to 60. I mean, come on. Like, he was like, oh, maybe I'll use a knife. No, he's willing to die for this.
He reminded me of that dude from the Tiger or the Leopard dude, Leopard, the one from Static Shock that just had bombs already set.
Yeah, so many sticks of TNT. Like, where the hell? But the mysterious stranger, he's able to kick out the grenade right back into the regular goons or henchmen. I gotta go back to She-Hulk to figure out if he's a goon or a henchman, believes in the cause or not. And the mysterious waiter character lands on a boat, smooth as hell, and a couple of ladies are like, "Hey, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Dragon, Richard Dragon." And then we cut to the Bond opening. Sorry, again, we cut to the Soul of the Dragon opening sequence. Um, and now that we've met Richard Dragon, it's time for us to meet this movie's villain.
So yes, we see a mysterious man who is dressed in all white. You know that he's up to no good, because when you're dressed in all white and none of it is dirty, you know that you're well removed from anything. But basically, this man is walking down a long hallway, and he tells them that tells the guards at the door that he's looking to meet with Mr. Burr, who is our villain of today. As he enters the space, we hear again, because it is rated R, we could finally say this. Mr. Burr pays for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as things are clearing up, the man in white, he tells Burr that he wants to be in the room where it happens. I, I, I'm sorry, I had to make the
Yeah,
joke.
look, I'm okay with it.
But he does tell him that apparently their plan has been revealed. Someone has broken into their study and found information about the gate. So as this woman is preparing to leave, Burr gives her some money. She steps into the next room where she is locked in a basically kind of like a zoo cage. And as she's freaking out, telling him that, hey, I got more clients for tonight, he's just sitting by and watching all of this as she's frantically going crazy. As he presses a button, and two things happen. One, snakes come out from the random holes in the ground as they make their way over to this woman. And two, he opens up a jar, and in that jar is a live mouse that he takes and consumes.
Yeah, I was hoping at some point we would explain this. It doesn't really get explained at
Mm-mm.
all later, and in fact, it's gonna be part of a plot hole later. Um, so yeah, that's our villain. Motivations, we just know he's looking for a gate of some sorts, and that he eats mice. That's it. He's very much an advanced bodega cat from the city, essentially. Um, he's, so now that that's out of the way, um, we get to a club in what we soon find out is Gotham City, and we meet up with our man Drake, who immediately is trying to get into this club, but the bartender is not willing. The bouncer is not willing to let him in. The bouncer is so dedicated to his job that he leaves his post to try to kick Dragon's ass. And I'm like, bro, you have one job and you just left it. But cleverly, Dragon locks him away in a gate. Doesn't even fight him because it'll probably be a slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
As we move on to another character introduction.
Yes, we finally get to meet Batman, the person in the title of our film today, or rather Bruce Wayne. It seems like Bruce Wayne has adopted his 70s style hairstyle very strongly in this one, as he's talking to a woman in continuity comics wise. Her name is Silver St. Cloud. Is another one of Bruce's many love interests who he thought about marrying. And it seems like they're having a conversation, the breaking point conversation, in which he has to decide, am I going to, take this step into becoming, um, entering society as a man who doesn't have this dedicated mission to Gotham, have a life, have a wife and family, or am I just going to don my cowl once again to be vengeance? And of course, he chooses vengeance. So this causes her to leave And this is the last time we see her. I had a
Yeah.
lot of issues with this one.
Yeah. I hope you didn't want any follow up on this plot whatsoever because you're
Yeah,
not getting any.
not at all. In fact, if you want more about this plot, please go watch Gotham.
Honestly. So now that Batman is single and ready to mingle, Richard Dragon shows up, and as it's clear they know each other. And after a few minutes of conversation,
Here he go.
Richard Dragon triggers one of many flashbacks we'll be seeing in this movie. And if anyone has seen our Green Lantern review, you know exactly how we feel about random flashbacks around here.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not change my mind, but we'll cover them all. So we flash back to Nanda Parbat, classic assassins, League of Assassins training ground in many versions of the DC universe. But here, when Batman gets there after banging on a big door, he's greeted by O Sensei, who seemingly kept him waiting out there for no particular reason except he was just bored that day. And
I do feel like Batman could have given him a bit more wait time because he kept knocking every second. And I was just like, what if there are multiple floors to this building? What if O Sensei was naked and had to grab a robe that he couldn't find? Batman, have some patience, please.
yeah, he's not a very patient Batman in this version. Yeah, so they get in, and then we get a lineup of all of O Sensei students. We get Shiva, who's cutting reeds, Ben Turner slash Bronze Tiger, who's trying to control his temper, Jade, who's just there, and Rip, what was his name? It's not Rick Flag.
No, it is Rip Jagger. He's got the moves like Jagger in this one. As he is practicing some, it looks like it started out first slow like Tai Chi and then immediately turned aggressive. And then finally we get the reveal of Richard Dragon here, who is the first person we get introduced to. He has a buzz cut in this one. My man's hair was so low. And it seems like he has been the part that I was very confused about was that when Bruce points out Richard, O Sensei's like, oh, right. I forgot about him. He's been here for so long that I forgot about him. And I was just like, what? That doesn't make sense. If anything, you should remember him the most.
Right? And he's also, in addition to being shady about him, he's also shady about another big door. And they're also, it was like a sunny oasis, but they're on top of a mountain, I think. Did they ever really get into why that is, or?
I don't think so, but I'm just gonna put this one on global warming.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was the
right.
70s. It probably doesn't make too much sense, but you know what? There's a lot of hairspray that was in there
Right,
from all that
right.
hair, so I'm assuming global warming.
That's yeah, that's what they're doing. So we flash back to the present, and here we have some really subtle dialogue where Bruce says, "Aren't you some globe-trotting super spy, Richard Dragon?" Giving me real Suicide Squad. This is Katana energy. So Dragon wants some help with his gate fiasco, but Bruce doesn't want to do this. He wants to focus on his own city, and I do like this aspect of he controls this nightclub, so he can overhear local criminal conversations. I think that's smart. I'd like to see that in more iterations of Batman. But right now it doesn't look like they have much time to talk because the Foot Clan just showed up.
Actually, I thought it was Raiden and Sub-Zero. But yes, they are demanding for Richard Dragon to come out as they're attacking everything. And this is where Bruce and Richard, they decide to team up here to save Bruce's club mostly. And it's a great battle. Another great sequence of action scenes here. And this is really just because the animation was done by MRI Studios. Sorry, not MRI, MIR. MIR Animation, who you'll know their work from like Legend of Korra, Avatar, Dragon Prince. So that's why I feel like the animation was just seemed so smooth. So you get to see everything. You get to see Bones Broken, which has earned this rated R rating and everything. But then Bruce decides, you know what, this is a waste of time because things are happening and I need to shut this down because the insurance on this place is not going to cover, it being attacked by like Raiden and Sub Zero. So he heads off to his office, turns out the lights, and uses the darkness to his advantage as the Batman.
Yeah. And you know what? I would have really gave this scene a 10 out of 10 if not for the fact that in the middle of the fight, as Bruce is getting kicked over, they start another 5-minute flashback in the middle of the fight. where
I blanked that flashback out of my mind.
oh, I've counted every single one. um, so in the middle of this fight, the O Sensei says, hey, everybody, all his students, try and break this rock. And all of them try to break the rock. Some people give up ease quicker than others. But you see, eventually it's just Bruce and Dragon left punching this rock. Their hands are bloody. And Dragon turns in, and that's when O Sensei comes in, and he's like, "Oh, you're still at it, huh?" And Bruce is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna keep going." And O Sensei goes, "Well, I said try to break the rock, not that you were going to break the rock."
The one thing I hate the most, besides flashbacks, is semantics. Damn you, O Sensei.
So savage. Um, but I mean, what the scene does well, I'll say, is it does show that this is a very early career, impatient, impulsive, angry Batman that we're dealing with. He still doesn't have it all in check and all figured out. But also his O Sensei is a master of trolling. Um, so now that we've gotten through the flashback that really needed to happen, then I suppose we're back to Batman debuting and fighting some ninjas.
Yeah, they quickly take down the ninjas here, and something happens in which one of the ninjas does alert Richard and Bruce to what could be the next step, which is for them to go get this sword, a sword that is currently being held by another one of their comrades, Shiva. So as they're heading on over, Bruce and Richard, they get into a car. Bruce has changed out of his Batman costume, and this leads into a conversation where Richard's asking him like, "Yo, can you explain to me why you're dressed up like this? Like why you felt you needed to leave this fight when I was getting my ass beat real quick to go suit up?" And Bruce tells him that it's a way for him to keep his identities separated. It's I'm kind of glad where we don't get this sense of like this strong dialogue from Bruce about his duty to Gotham as much. It's just implied. It's just like I'm doing this for my parents, and I think it's because of the fact that it seems to be an understanding, which we'll talk about because this does come up in one of the many flashbacks, and the reason why Bruce is learning alongside them. But as they're driving over to Chinatown, did not know. Oh wait, no, actually take that back. I was going to say I didn't know that Gotham had a Chinatown, but we were introduced to it in Batman: The Long Halloween.
Oh yes.
So so as they're driving over to Chinatown to go meet up with Shiva, since apparently she has a sword, we get to see what's happening alongside our villains of the movie as the man in white. I believe I'm going to mispronounce his name so terribly. Faust. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Fun fact is actually translated to Snake Fist. So going along with the motif of these cobras, because it's the Cobra Gang. So as he's in the club, he's letting his employer, Bird, know once again that like they're heading for the sword, they know where it's at, and also the ninjas failed. So Bird tells him, will dispose of them, show them how displeased I am with their progress and their work. And it's shown here that it seems that Snake Fist here killed every single one of the ninjas that were hired by Burr.
Hey, why not send him in the first
Right,
place?
right.
Like, couldn't you have saved yourself a lot of trouble? If he's killing an entire gang of dudes by himself, I'm pretty sure he could have killed the two dudes you wanted dead. At that time, only one dude. You were only sending him to kill one dude. What? Why
Right.
go through all this trouble?
This the
Anyway,
Snake Fist probably has like a base price.
yeah, I figure like pay the overtime. I think it's worth it. There's also a very confusing joke where Berg jokes like, "We got a new recruit to the organization. I hate his movies, but we need the money." So, are they taking shots at somebody? I I wasn't quite sure what this was referring to at
Hmm.
all. Like, it felt specific, but at the same time,
It's like, who was this band? Who was blowing up in the 70s?
right? More questions than answers. And speaking of more questions than answers, I was questioning why we had yet another flashback when we see that Shiva was given this sword because it should be guarded by the one who chooses life. Okay, Shiva. Um
Mean more like the
and
end of life when it comes to Shiva. Jeez.
right. And for no discernible reason at all, Jade decides to stir up the pot about who should deserves this real sword, and she doesn't nominate herself. She asks Rip to go and fight Shiva, so they do. Don't ask the logic of that because they're not going to explain that either.
Just wanted to get rid of the competition, you know. It was just like it was a it was a white boy thing. She was just like, let me just take him out.
Yeah,
So at first you could kind of see on Rip's face, he's just like, yo, why are you throwing me in here? But eventually it does seem that he does want the smoke. Because as he gets up to see if he could win the sword, this is where O Sensei sets the rules. And you know, I think these rules are crazier than the rules that Andrew sets up for Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
very close, close.
Close? Okay. So the rule is that if Rip wins, he does earn the right to hold and wield the sword, which we learn is Soul Breaker. It's like a Miramasa type sword. Very if you've heard about like the Soul Taker that's wielded by Katana, but this one, Soul Breaker, is awesome sword, awesome sword. I would don't even blame him for trying to fight for it. But the other rule is that Lady Shiva can she can fight as well, but she only can use one single finger to defend herself. You know, it's shocking when you hear this, but when you see how Shiva puts that finger to use, damn.
Yeah, yeah. She's impressive. Like
Mm-hmm.
pressure point techniques,
Mm-hmm.
defense blocking. She completely devastates. She Rip with this in this fight. And after we've seen her win the sword back in the respect of everybody, we see now she's the head of crime in Chinatown. And in one of these the movies Flashes of Brilliance, Richard Dragon is like, she's the head of crime in Chinatown. Why haven't you taken her down yet? And Bruce is like, I'm working up to it. And so it's a cool little moment
Mm-hmm.
of like, you know, Bruce's how does Bruce cope with people who he's friends with that are also criminals?
Right.
But no time for that because we have to repeat the scene we've just seen because after Discount Dum Dum Dugan cheats at Fight Club,
Oh
cheats,
my god.
right? He had
Yes.
the
Yes,
bowler
A
hat, the
plus. A
mustache.
plus joke. That's
Yeah.
it. We're done. We're done with this podcast. That
All
was
right.
it. That
See you
wins
guys later.
it.
That's it. Yeah. So after he cheats, she was like, "Hey, I don't like when you cheat at Fight Club." So, yeah, she just goes into the ring and straight up murders this dude.
Mm-hmm. Barehanded.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, so number two rule at Fight Club, don't cheat, because apparently Shiva will come through and not only show how trash your skills are, but she will also stab you with her hands. She legit took her hands and plunged them into this man's sides and then also into this man's throat, leaving him there bleeding out on the ground while Richard and Bruce just watch in awe and, just kind of walk up to her and be like, yo, Shiva, it's been a minute. Please don't kill me with your deadly hands. But before they can actually get up close to her, she takes out some throwing stars and throws into her direction. But luckily for them, she's actually aiming for the two targets that were behind them, planning to kill them.
Yeah, and it's great that she saved them. Not so great that in this conversation, Dragon
Mm-hmm.
casually reveals that Bruce is Batman to Shiva. Um, so good luck keeping that on lid on that. So the sword gets stolen in all the chaos. So this starts a huge car chase. Some highlights of the car chase right away. The GCPD just shoot at everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Everyone in the chase can get a full bullet to the neck.
You could be going in the opposite direction of this highway. You will get shot by the GCPD.
And my favorite part of this chase, though, is that Shiva looks down at a button in the Batmobile, and Bruce is like, "Are you gonna do what I think you're doing?" Because Shiva somehow knew this was an ejectocito cuz kind of situation, and used the seat to rocket boost herself to another highway at the exact time and speed she needed to catch up to the villains. What? Why?
Meanwhile, in further breaking logic skills, Batman shows once again that Dominic Toretto is the true teacher of driving in the DC universe. As Richard asks, where is there another on ramp that we can get to the same level that they're on? And he's like, yeah, through a cliff. And he drives over a cliff to somehow, in a scene that will make Homer Simpson proud, makes it onto the highway once again to continue the chase. Unfortunately, though, with all these surprising efforts, there is a helicopter being operated by another one of our villains here. This is Lady Eve. She was one of the guards outside the Jeffrey Burrs built room earlier in the film. She's able to get to connect the use a giant magnet. I have no questions about this except that, this is clear. This is Warner Brothers at work, where they use a giant magnet from the helicopter to take the car that's being driven with the sword and fly the car away with this helicopter.
So yeah, we're just stealing everything from Fast and Furious because that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's Fate of the Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so once this happens, they say, "Hey, you know who we need? Ben." So what they're really saying is we need another flashback. Um, I will give credit. This is probably the best flashback of the movie. Um, Ben and Bruce have a fight for absolutely no reason. Um,
I'm sorry. What do you mean for no reason? Bruce stole the last bit of rice.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That plain ass sensei rice that had no seasonings or nothing. Right. He stole the last bit of rice.
Okay, my
Um,
bad.
and yeah, no. But the fight starts for the it's silly reason. It's rice. It's just rice. And this sparks a conversation where Ben's like, "You think we should have sympathy for Bruce just because mom and daddy would kill? People die every day, B, in my neighborhood." And I'm like, you know what, Ben? I'll give you that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
um,
think this was like every I as I was watching this, it made me realize that one scene that had a flashback in my own life to watching Everybody Hates Chris, where he reveals that like the reason why his dad loves the Rocky movie, the very first one, is because a black man beat up a privileged white man. And
yeah.
This was the same feeling. I am not gonna lie. As it wasn't the best flashback, it wasn't necessary, but it was perfect in my book.
Oh my, yeah, because yeah, things escalate, and Ben just beats the bricks off of Bruce Wayne. I mean, god damn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
And Bruce kept getting up. I don't know if it was because out of pure determination, whether it's he didn't hear no bell, but I'm pretty sure he was deaf at this point because the way that Bronze Tiger was whooping him, whoo, jeez.
and
He ain't pretty boy no more.
no, and I love the quote of Bronze Tiger. I ain't never turned down a chance to whip someone's ass. And he beats Bruce so bad that he starts respecting him.
I have never seen someone get beat so bad that you earned respect. Also, another thing, I feel like this was gang initiation. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah. So this is my favorite flashback because somehow they gain mutual respect for each other. It's just silly and ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So in present day, Ben's he's running a martial arts academy. He's trying to inspire kids in his own way. When his old crew pulls up, and instead of like nicely telling him what's going on, Shiva throws a damn sword in his face. That of course he catches, but you could just use your words. Oh, and because it's been a minute, we go to another flashback.
Yeah. Um, this time around, we see that the entire crew has come together. They're in bed. They're talking about what's behind that gate, and every
Oh,
single thing.
wait, I'm sorry. They all sleep in the same bedroom. Did we? Or are we gonna
Oh,
skip over that?
but as they're talking about what they think is behind the door. Some people are saying like maybe it's like a scroll or a martial arts skill that's being hidden away for all this time. I love Ben's logic about it. He's like, yo, I bet it's a spa, like a full on relaxation spa to get his ultimate zen on. And Bruce, of course, has to be the downer that he is, and it just says, no, it's a distraction. Y'all need to get some sleep. Otherwise, we're not going to be ready for our like training the following day.
But some people don't take that advice, and they hear a scream. And in a very 0 to 60 moment, it turns out that Rip has been a spy this entire time and killed Jade, because killing Jade is the only way you can open up the door O Sensei was shady about. Ignore all the comparisons to Shang-Chi we're about to make because the rest of this movie is basically the plot of Shang-Chi. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
down to a T, guys. So we're gonna acknowledge it now. Um, so the door opens up and a few snake dragons come out, and O Sensei comes out and says, "You guys have trained for this, really? Y'all trained to fight snake dragons?"
Also, this was not in the job description whatsoever. Like, at least allude to it.
Oh, and did we mention that in this continuity, everybody kills?
Oh yeah, Batman was breaking necks. It is clear that he does not have his vow, like he said. I'm assuming that it's like we will kill, but not by guns. I think that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so we find out that there is a um Rip is a part of the same Cobra gang from back, but like further back in time. He believes that behind this door there is a god that will grant them a new world order for especially for those who follow them. Oh, Sensei is like, nah, it is not a god, it's a demon who is looking to destroy the earth, and he's looking for an earthly avatar. And Rip is like, and that will be me. And as he opens the doors, um, it is not him at all because we see the. I think Andrew, you reminded me of this core memory of mine, but that ad for the snakes, just or just telling you to do bad things. Yeah, they make a return as they immediately eat Rip Jagger here, leading to everybody trying to kill these like snake humanoid anthropomorphic creatures as Oh Sensei is just walking through the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, Dragon curb stomped
Yes,
like a
yes.
snake.
I am glad that we saw that because that is why this movie was rated R. You do not just add the curb stomp in the movie and just expect to get away with that.
Yeah, so and O Sensei reveals that to close the door, you have to a soul has to stay behind. So he agrees to stay on the other side of Kingdom Hearts to make sure the door stays closed to darkness. And um in the funniest part of this movie for me personally, he does this very dignified. He says, everybody stick together, believe in yourselves, believe in the power of the cards. And when the door closes, he screams. He screams. And I'm like, yo, he did this very dignified, but he ends up screaming in the end. Um, so now hard cut back to the present, where we know the cult leader, Burr, is on his way to open this gate again, try to open the gate again. Um, and he has brought a crate of children, even though he literally needs one to open the door. He brought a crate of children. And instead of any of the, other people he had could have easily kidnapped before. Anyway,
Even one of his disciples. Like,
right,
like,
right.
I mean, again, henchman goon conversation. Not one of y'all were willing to sacrifice yourselves for the
Yeah,
cause. Come
it's
on.
a crate of children. I mean, so yeah, they got to catch up. So they're on a plane now.
Yeah, and this is where we get, fortunately, not another flashback. At least it wasn't really a flashback. It was Ben telling his story about how he's been chasing after the Cobra Gang this entire time. Um, Apparently, like Batman, after leaving the Nanda Parbat, he has some aggression to work through. So he decided to become a vigilante, dressed up with a yellow shirt and blue jeans. I think he decided to go on this like cross international journey of taking down Cobra Gang by Cobra Gang, and he eventually earned the title, the name that struck fear in the hearts of many as Power Man. I mean, Black Samurai as no, that's not it either, because that was a bit of a joke that Richard Dragon tried to throw in. He finally reveals that he earned the name Bronze Tiger, which won the respect of Bruce, Richard, and Shiva. I'm assuming because it was the least racist name of all.
Yeah, because he looked like Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Which I like, in this entire flashback, for some reason, I was like, I didn't believe him. Like,
You sit on the throne of lies, Ben.
he's trying to tell me he single-handedly fought every cult member in the snake cult by himself when it clearly took Batman and Richard Dragon working together while Batman was wearing the full suit. You telling me you with a pair of claws did all this? I don't know. Um, but it's eventually revealed that he had a chance years ago to kill Jeffrey Burr because he knew he was going to be the next coming of the snake god, but he was the kid, so he decided not to do that. Um, and Shiva is pretty mad. She's like, classic. She goes, a classic, like, if Hitler was a baby, I would have killed him. But, can't cry over spilled Hitlers here because right now they got a parachute onto the island and Batman's just in his suit. When he's standing next to everybody else, it's just funny that
It
he's just
is.
in the bat suit because he spends so little time in the bat suit in this movie.
Right?
Um, that we'll get to that later. But yep, they land on the Snake Island and they got to deal with the Snake Hands McGee or whatever his real name was.
Schlagenfaust. I'm still practicing it. I think I got close. So yeah, as Snake this here decides to take on our team of this rogue ones here. Um it's revealed that he's actually one of the servants of Naga, because it's revealed that when he takes off his gloves, that his hands are actual snakes. What's worse is that if you cut his hands like Hydra, two more will appear in his place, as one of the snakes, his actual hand, that's his dismembered hand, grows into a full life alive snake once again. So now our heroes need to figure out what's the best course of action, realizing they can't use blades. So this leads into Batman and Ben saying that they'll stay behind to take on the two villains here, while Shiva and Richard head on up to stop Burr from killing one of the many, many kids that he has in the crate.
Yeah, so I okay, these fights. So Shiva decides to take on a female henchwoman, because her look offends her. I don't know if that was like a racist
I
thing.
think it was. I think it
Okay.
was.
That
Just
I was a
for
little confused about
context, it
that
was a
line.
blonde, blue-eyed woman, and she was it was Lady Eve. If you'll see her in this movie, I don't know if the point of it was that because Lady Eve was kind of dressed in a I think she actually had an attire that was very similar to what Lady Shiva would wear in comics. So I don't know if that was the plan with where they were going, but it was very weird
Yeah.
nonetheless.
It was very obscure reference there.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Dragon fights King Snake. I know this is cutting comic section, but is there a King Snake who fights blind in the comics? Just
No, there
no.
is not. Nope, nope. This is a straight up rip off of Daredevil.
Then
I'm
why
gonna
did
say,
he do
man
it?
used a scarf and all. I have no idea why. I have no. I as far as I can tell, as far as I can find, King Snake has never had his eyes covered.
Because okay, so we can cut to this one really quick because this is the stupidest fight of them all. Because King Snake is fighting with his eyes covered for an inexplicable reason, and he is actually winning against Dragon until Dragon realizes, hey, if he's just basing me off by sound, why don't I throw a bunch of pebbles around here? Which immediately is like, if this guy can see, which it's never made clear if he can or not, if he can, why not take the blindfold off? If he can't, how has he not learned how to cope with this very obvious disadvantage in battle? This is a huge, glaring weak spot that anybody can exploit who has a brain.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I have no answer for you here. Um, because and clearly King Snake did not have an answer for how badly he will then lose from all these pebbles. Um, so but I will talk about even just as great of a fight where we have Lady Eve and Lady Shiva who are going back and forth. That she once again also kills Lady Eve by using her bare hands to stab her through the cuts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who her manicurist is, but that person needs to be paid double.
At least.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back in the cave, Batman and Ben are losing against Schlagenfaust. I think I'm getting better at this. Uh,
Yeah.
they're losing against Schlagenfaust and the other snake person. So Batman decides that he's running out of tricks, so he pulls out some mace. And Ben is like, "Wait, I'm sorry. Are you going to try to mace them to death?" Which Batman says, "There's nothing else we can do." And Ben sees off in the distance that there are torches. Who lit these torches? We do not know. But he grabs one, and as our villains are leaping their way for the final blow, this is when Ben takes the mace and puts it in behind the torch and yells out, "Burn, baby, burn!"
How strong is this mace? Because this fireball was approximately a quarter of the power of the sun. So Snake Man's gone now. Don't worry about him. And so now all the fighters are free to corner Burr. And Cobra Commander, he has a very brief speech where he's like, "Oh man, I was a kid. My whole life was led up to this." That's as much character development you're getting because he immediately unalives himself to open the door. Like
Yeah.
immediately tries nothing else.
Also,
Like,
fun fact, y'all. Read the full instructions because upon doing so, he was here thinking, "Oh yeah, I'll become a god and turn, be taken in by Naga." That is not the case because this sword burned him to a crisp.
yeah, worse than the mace guy just got it. Um, and after his soul is taken and the door is opened to the most obvious
Yeah.
plot point that was going to happen in this movie. O Sensei comes out, obviously possessed by the evil person. I knew that was going to happen as soon as he walked into the door,
Mm-hmm.
but they pretend it's a surprise. He immediately just gives everybody the business at once. Um,
I
and
still
it
want to say
looks
that his hits were so powerful that every time he landed a hit on somebody, their clothes exploded.
yes, it was like Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Nobody had a chance until Batman comes in because there's no killing. There's a no kill here. Batman comes in, uses his cape, and breaks O Sensei's neck, and then the movie's over, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Capes. We used to give them bad rap, and the mode was telling us that like it's terrible, they lead to death. Well, it looks like it led to death in this case for the good side, but not quite because O Sensei reveals that he is basically an action figure as he places his head back into proper alignment. I don't know who his chiropractor is, but that person, again, along with the manicurist, needs a raise.
Yep, and he immediately kicks Batman around, leaving with everybody else down. Dragon rises to the challenge. It is now revealed that Dragon was always the intended target. He wanted someone strong enough for to hold his soul, the evil guy. So, and Dragon's a choice. And Dragon's like, if I'm strong enough to do that, I'm strong enough to kick your ass. Basically, is what he says. I'm paraphrasing only slightly.
Yeah, I think this
Um,
was also stolen from Supernatural season 5, actually.
I think this movie stole from a lot of things actually, so I'm not surprised. Um, and at this point, Dragon and the evil spirit release their animalities, and fight each other. And this was the point where I went, "Why is this a Batman movie?"
Thank you. Yes.
Because it came down to these two.
So yes, as we see Double Dragon, the reboot here happening here. Batman realizes that Richard Dragon is in trouble because Osensei slash Naga decides to send out his dark essence. Batman takes the Soulbreaker, the Miramasa blade, and throws it over. First off, actually, he throws some smoke bombs and then alerts Richard that he's planning to throw the blade over. Again, this is something I actually have a real issue with. Don't announce the plan as the plan is being enacted. Like, fortunately, because of plot armor, Richard does catch the sword in time and he stabs O Sensei, finally defeating Naga as Naga's spirit or soul flies through the doors that from the gate to and leaving the soul of O Sensei to finally say goodbye to his students.
Yeah, he dies again. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he says everybody come in, hold my hand one last time. Batman doesn't for some reason. I'm not quite sure why.
But
Um,
he also knows that it's Batman too. Like Bruce is Batman. I think that's the funniest thing of all.
oh yeah, he never even questions that.
Never
Like,
did.
nor does it give him Batman much advantage, except he throws a few smoke bombs, which he could have done out of costume.
Right.
Um,
Thank yes. Oh, I have I have so much to say about
um,
that.
so yeah, so now that O Sensei is dead, the Naga has been dispelled and his soul has been sent through the door. For some reason, this particular time, Naga's soul does not trigger the condition of a soul to close the door. I'm not quite sure what that was about.
Mhm.
But so Batman decides to go in, And in a joke I did chuckle at, Ben walks in and says, "Hey, where's white rice?" And referring to Batman. Um, and the four of them decide to just go do Kingdom Hearts together
Mhm.
with no exit strategy.
Yeah. I mean, you say Kingdom Hearts, I was thinking of Jet Li's The One,
Oh
where
yeah.
they're now trapped on the other side to fight demons for all eternity. Um, and that's how our movie ends. With our heroes who save the world now fighting to this taking the fight to the home front. And that's Batman Soul of the Dragon. Our credits are rolling. So now it's time for us to decide whether or not this is sweet or sour. But before we do so, Andrew and I are going to go try to sign up for either Miyagi Do, Eagle Fang, or Cobra Kai. So while we do that, here's a podcast from the Forgotten Entertainment family you should be listening to the next time you're not listening to us.
Do you like beer?
Do you like podcasts?
Do you like beer podcasts?
Then check out Crackin' One Open, a podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews.
Every week, we crack open a new craft beer from breweries around the country.
And sometimes the world.
We'll talk about how it was made, what's in it, the history of the brew, and the brewery.
Then we'll give our tasting notes, and while we're finishing up, we'll talk about some of the latest goings-on in the world of pop culture.
So check out Crackin' One Open with Mike and Elise, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Batman Soul of the Dragon, this 2021 movie outside. This was a movie that came out after our discussions of the original from our first season, the DCAMU films, approximately 1 year later. Is this movie as sweet as maybe one of the drinks being ordered from the beginning of our Casino Royale here? Or is it more sour than probably Shiva's hands must be after stabbing 3 people in the neck and body barehanded?
Well, call Shiva in from the other room and have her show these hands, because my goodness gracious, this is a sour offering for me. Here, we pointed out a lot of problems with this movie. Principal among them, Batman is hardly in this. And I don't mind that. I don't mind a story every once in a while to focus on another character, but he is in it so little. And I'm specifically talking about Batman. Bruce is in this movie for the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman himself is in this for such a portion of the movie, and it has absolutely no bearing on the outcome of events, that I was truly baffled as to why you even called this a Batman movie.
Right.
When you gave the tiniest of lip service to Batman. I have seen episodes of Justice League Unlimited that gave Batman more screen time, and they are only 20 minutes. I mean, like, I was baffled as to why this was a Batman movie. Secondly, why is this in the 70s? Why? The movie set in the 70s, I thought, as we saw with movies like Red Sun, we've seen in God damn it, that the Batman future movie we watched.
Oh, Batman Unlimited Monster Mayhem. Yep.
Sure. For better or for worse, those movies at least justified the time period they were in.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why this was set in the 70s. I'm just truly baffled at why we were here in the 70s. It didn't factor into the plot whatsoever. If you were trying to go for a James Bond thing, I don't know what that helped. Again, I think this could have been the same outcome in any era. I missed that there was no Alfred in this movie for some reason. Like a half an hour in, I realized, where's Alfred? Underdeveloped villain. He eats a mouse. We don't know what that's about. Like, still by the end of the movie, why he's eating the mouse, and he's usurped by another generic behind the demon door villain. But last but not least, the entire movie to work for me, for story wise, fight scenes are great, they're fun.
Mhm.
But story wise, you need to care about Richard Dragon's personal growth. And in the 1800 flashbacks that they showcase, they never once gave us insight into what brought Richard Dragon there to train in the first place. Why is he so
Mm.
dedicated? We never got any insight. So I think why I'm declaring this a sour ultimately can be summed up in one line from O Sensei. He's been here so long, I forgot that he was here. That is my closing argument, Your Honor. What do you think? Sweet or sour for you?
I agree with you on every aspect of why it's sour, but I'm giving this a sweet because I actually had a good time watching this movie. It is, I think the reason why is because eventually I just stopped caring. I stopped caring about it. I was just like, I'm not looking for depth here. This is definitely one of those like 70s kung fu films where it's just like nothing will ever make sense. We are here just to enjoy the crap out of some fight scenes. That is just it. And I think that's why for me it does range into sweet. I agree. Numbers of flashbacks again, so annoying. Because some of this stuff could have just been like I didn't think we needed like the reason why Shiva had the blade. We could have just said that she had the blade. I will always say though to hold on to that scene where Bruce Wayne is getting beat up by Ben Turner because that is a that's up there for me right now. That's a flashback that was needed.
Don't change it. Don't change it.
Please don't. Um Also the most important thing of all, the reason why for me it was also the some souring moment of it. Silver St. Cloud had no purpose in this film. To introduce her and then have her leave was just ridiculous. Because she again had no connection to the plot. But the thing that made it sweet for me is that like it's something that I always say that like Batman lives in this because of the fact that literally every single person does a Batman movie. You cannot go through time except for before Batman was actually created where you don't have we don't have like a defining Batman movie of our generations. But the big thing about that is that every single person has developed a world around Batman, and getting an opportunity to see these characters is one of the reasons why I was just like it's a sweet film for me because it's like we're introducing these characters to people. Now, it wasn't the best introduction, but it's enough. It's enough for like, prior to this, there's hardly any Richard Dragon content. Ben, he does have Arrow and a couple other shows in which he had like one shot things, but this, as far as we know, besides Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, he hasn't been in any really other movies. And Lady Shiva, you get most of her connection in more recent content. So to finally get an opportunity where it's just like you get something focused in on them, I did appreciate that because again, the greatest thing about Batman is never Batman. It's about the world that has been built around him. And that's why today I have an Arte alteration by
Oh,
Comic
all right.
Shams.
Okay.
Yep. Get rid of Batman entirely. Like the bat suit. Keep Bruce Wayne. Don't include any information about the bat suit. I think that like the cool thing about this, because you mentioned it, where it's just like everybody's getting all this like these weapons. Bruce basically has the same thing, but Richard's just like, you need to don the suit because it brings you into a new kind of space. He didn't have anything else to add. Like he could have just easily just held the smoke bombs, bring a fanny pack, bro. But I think if you take away the bat suit, this was a good film for me where it's just like you finally took away Batman and just focused in on Bruce Wayne. And I think what would have been cool is if at the end of it, maybe see like where from hearing the story of how Bronze Tiger or Ben adopted this identity of Bronze Tiger to then inflict the fear and whatnot into these gangs, maybe he decides, you know what, I need something like that. And that's what pushes him to finally don the bat suit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is a really sticking point because they brought up some interesting ideas. about, the classic, he can't separate his life.
Mm-hmm.
They brought up the fear thing, but it was so funny seeing Batman is like, they had a line about Batman using fear when both Ben Turner and Shiva are immensely scarier than him in just
Mm-hmm.
their regular outfits.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think if he's not Batman in this movie, um, and he's building up to becoming Batman, I think it would work better. Or if this was kind of a year one sort of story where he was
Yeah.
still, because he feels very much year one Batman in this,
Mm-hmm.
but his actions really don't. He does not do anything more terrible than the rest of his compatriots. I mean, even he doesn't burn the Snake Man directly. He doesn't even really kill O Sensei, even though that wouldn't have been a bad thing to do at the time either.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he's not doing anything worse than the rest of them, I wondered what was the point. So there was really no contrast. So I think my main RJ alteration is, even if you kept the Batman, just I want to see a contrast between Bruce and the rest of them, because he feels like the same person. They
Yeah.
all seem to be doing well financially. They all seem to be doing their own individual hero quests. There was really no juxtaposition, and they all kill, so it really doesn't matter. So give me something that shows me that Bruce is different from these other people,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I can vibe with it more, but they just all kind of blended into each other, especially Richard Dragon, who should have been the most interesting, but became more bland as the runtime went on, which I don't even know how that was possible.
Well, I think it's just because which will hop us into our comic book section for this movie. I think it's really because there isn't that much about Richard Dragon. Funny thing,
Does he even exist?
Yeah. So he does. This movie does not pull from any comic book, but it does introduce all of these characters, as I mentioned. Every single one of these characters, except for Bruce, it was created by Dennis O'Neil and Jim Barry. They took on the writer name as the duo of Jim Dennis. This movie and these stories, these characters are created because back in the 70s, I don't know why people were just really into karate. I wasn't around for that, so I don't know, but the all the comic books just wanted to introduce more kung fu and karate in their stories. So that's why most of the heroes during the 70s, they were either like martial artists or hand to hand, or had some connection to hand to hand combat, like Iron Fist and Luke Cage, both coming out in 72. And then next, DC's response to that was one, Richard Dragon, who was introduced into the world in the book called Dragon's Fist Kung Fu Master Richard Dragon in 1974. Okay. Yeah, they were really, you might as well call him the immortal Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Crazy thing though, there is some confusion about when he actually did come out, because Dragon's Fist Kung Fu Master Richard Dragon does seem to be the official introduction first appearance of Richard Dragon. However, this book was later adapted into the DC Comics series. Before that, it was not a DC series. Now this one is, where it's called Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter #1.
Very, very dramatic titles.
Yeah, because again, it's the 70s. These were kung fu fighters. So this dropped in May of 1975. I haven't really read these because I wasn't really too familiar with like Richard Dragon. I knew of Ben Turner as Bronze Tiger and Lady Shiva, but for Richard Dragon, he is from St. Louis. Apparently, he was the son of this man, a rich man possibly, that died during the plane crash, leaving him to be an orphan. And with no support, I kid you not, this is not the immortal Iron Fist story.
I was confused. I thought I had blacked out for a minute, because I'm like, aren't you giving me Iron Fist?
Yeah, the stories are very similar. But in this case, instead of being trapped in a magical land where he has to face a dragon. He actually just gets he turns into a thief and he meets O Sensei when he's trying to steal a Buddha statue from O Sensei's place.
Oh, that sounds very offensive. But go on.
O Sensei recognized there was good in him, so he decided to train him for about 6 to 7 years, leading to Richard Dragon to becoming this like really great martial artist. In fact, he even gave Richard Dragon the Dragon Claw, which was a piece of like a little stone or something that looked like a dragon claw, which helped Richard to channel his chi to becoming the fighter that he is. So instead of a tattoo on the chest, we get an actual claw.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yep. Originality. Love it.
So he does, he eventually does team up with who also gets introduced in that same issue. Ben Turner, also known as Bronze Tiger. So that's how that's Ben's introduction as well, as the two of them team up to just do good. You could hire them, you could hire these heroes. I'm just, oh my god, so many parallels.
Like they were just shameless back then, weren't they?
Pretty much. But overall, Richard does end up becoming this like really great martial arts artist. He ends up actually training Bruce Wayne. He's one of the people credited to Bruce's fighting skills. It earned him the right, because Bruce was so proud of his training, that he eventually trained also in continuity Helena Bertinelli, who you know as the Huntress.
Mm-hmm.
He also trained the Question.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Question needs to do better.
He also trained Cassandra Cain, you'll know as Orphan, or also the second Batgirl. And his most important student of all, Andrew, this name might resonate with you, Ricardo Diaz.
The dragon?
Yes. So you'll remember him, for people who are here don't know, you'll know him from the Arrowverse in the Arrow season 6 through 7. Ricardo Diaz is actually a student of Richard Dragon. And in the comic, Ricardo Diaz kills Richard to take on the name of the dragon. And he then turns into a crime lord.
And just ask for it? Can we just share copyright, or like?
Nah, it's you got to earn the name by taking life.
I see.
Other crazy thing about this, this is the biggest change of all, probably our WTF moment. Richard Dragon is not his real name. Richard Dragon is also a white man originally in the comics.
Oh no.
Red hair, white man learning how to learn kung fu. His real name is Richard Drakunovsky. Yeah, he does die in the comics by the hand of Ricardo Diaz. And this leads into, but we do have some of these adventures where he teams up with Bronze Tiger. Like the two of them go on a journey. Bronze Tiger doesn't actually take down Cobra like he does in the movie. He's actually going through the League of Assassins to eventually kidnap him and brainwash him and force him to wear the tiger mask. And that's really how he got the title of Bronze Tiger. And during their journeys, a big event that happened was that they were responsible for taking care of O Sensei's goddaughter, Carolyn Wusan. She was in New York while Richard and Ben were working as teachers in a school that they led. They were charged with taking care of her while she attended NYU. Unfortunately, she does get kidnapped and then killed. So because of that, her sister blames them for her death, and that sister is Lady Shiva.
Okay. It's all connected.
Who was also introduced in the same Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter series. She was introduced in issue number 5. I could talk about Lady Shiva, but honestly, there's just so much content out there. So please just watch like Young Justice and a lot of Batman stuff from the animated series. But I think the one thing that that hasn't been covered, but actually no, sorry, I take that back. What has been covered is that Lady Shiva is not only trained Tim Drake, but she's also the mother of Cassandra Cain, aka Orphan, aka the second Batgirl.
All connected then.
Batman likes to keep it in the family. Some other fun facts about this film. We got some more character introductions as well. I mean, we got Jade. You'll know her from as Cheshire from Young Justice and a bunch of other like DC animated content. Rip Jagger, Andrew, I think you might love this one the most.
Rip Jagger. Oh God.
He's not Rick Flag, but he is actually supposed to be a very heroic character, and his heroic alter ego you'll remember from DC's Peacemaker because he is the original judo master.
Oh, for a second I thought you were gonna say White Dragon. I thought it was gonna be real on theme today. Good,
no
master.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, in this version, he was supposed to be good in the continuity. And finally, in today's second WTF in comics, we are introduced also to King Snake. He was the person who was wearing the blindfold in our fight scene today. He is not blind at all. He does not have but he is a very powerful fighter. Sir Edmund Durrance, who clearly watched too many seasons of Daredevil, but instead you'll know him as the biological father of the man who broke the bat, Bane.
How deep does this crazy tree go down?
One of these days, we're going to do a bat family tree. That's what we need to do. But yeah, that's everything I got on the comic books part for us today. Again, there's no comic book story that this is pulling from. There are some little nods and whatnot, like in I think the second issue of the or either the fifth issue of Richard Dragon's book, we do learn about Lady Shiva running that underground fight club. And there's also a line that gets stated in the second issue, but other than that, brand new stories, nothing that's pulling from. This is just a story put together by, I believe Jeff Lemire was one of the screenwriters on this, and then Bruce Timm, this is one of his movies in which he wanted to dive into the darker side of the Justice League. So we have Justice League Gods and Monsters, Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. This is another one of those darker, more adult stories that he wanted to talk about. But yeah, that wraps up our Suicide Hour episode of Batman Soul of the Dragon.
Tune in next time for all the flashbacks we'll have to this episode during we would never do that.
We're never going to do another flashback. Well, I don't know what's actually going to happen for our next film because I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, me either.
Oh yeah, this is brand new. This is it. The season finale of Sweet or Sour, yet another DC animated podcast. So as you know, we're fading to black, but there will be a green light in the distance, glowing strongly, because we're going to be covering the first John Stewart feature film of Green Lantern, Beware My Power.
Oh yes.
Oh man, I cannot wait. I've been waiting for this man to have a movie for quite some time, and finally we have it. All right, well, that wraps up our episode today. Remember to take care of yourselves, and most importantly, please don't cheat in an underground Fight Club match. I believe that is the second rule of Fight Club.
Yes, and if you have a guy who can turn his hands into snakes on your payroll, send him first.